A big hello and a very warm welcome to Brand Equity with me, Sonali Krishna. As you can see, I'm sitting at the Adidas store in Delhi, a very, very large store of Adidas, and I'm here to interview the General Manager of Adidas India, Neelendra Singh. Lots of questions that I'm bustling with. Very happy to be here in your Adidas store, Neelendra.
Likewise.
And many congratulations on your mega BCCI deal.
Thank you, Sonali.
Let's start with the big, news, which is what everybody's been discussing for the last few months about your commitment to BCCI and this deal until 2028. What was the trigger for you to do this partnership, and more importantly, what are you expecting in terms of actual impact via this BCCI deal?
I think the first thing goes back to our mission to be the best sports brand in the world. And to be the best sports brand in the world, we will have to look at all sports equally.
Sure.
And a large part of the world plays soccer, but there's also a large part of the world that doesn't play soccer, plays cricket.
Yeah.
And hence it becomes only important to us that we work with a sport that is the heartbeat sport in a country, that gives us the credibility of the big sports brand that we are, and hence joining hands with BCCI and having an investment in cricket just made sense in that frame. And to answer your next question on what does it bring and what can we expect, cricket is like a platform. It's like Bollywood, I would say. And I guess if you're a brand in India and you've seen this over the years, almost all brands want to ride two large platforms.
Absolutely.
Bollywood and cricket. We, being the credible sport brand, cricket is a massive platform. It helps us be seen on the sport, on the pitch. That's extremely important. Cricket has outstanding reach. You know this, 700 million people watch cricket. Cricket helps us penetrate deeper into India. Cricket for us would also be a great recruitment tool. A lot of times, a lot of new consumers will wear Adidas for the first time for the sake of the cricket jersey.
Sure.
We're also very passionate about creating a jersey culture in India, which so far has, I think, eluded or avoided the Indian consumer. You know how West has a very dominant jersey culture, and therefore we believed that the investment in cricket would not only give us the commercial runway, but also build our brand, help us new consumers, and also help us broaden the category of sport in general.
Let me ask you a trick question. So you've done this deal until 2028.
Yes.
And I asked you about impact for a reason. We've seen Nike do a big deal with BCCI. Do you think that deal converted for Nike in terms of actual output?
Okay, so it's almost recurrent, Sonali. Sometimes it's not the same brand, it's not the same time, maybe the same sport. So
Okay.
difficult to compare. But what I can say is that I think this certainly is turning out to be a great time to invest in India, in
For
Indian
sure.
cricket. Indian cricket team is number one in all three formats. We are very passionate about driving the jersey culture. We are big enough in a country like India as a brand to be able to make those investments. And I guess cricket is a far more global sport than it used to be, let's say in 2010, which is when I guess the last deal happened. So I would say different times and different brands, but I'm passionate about making it so compelling and so successful that I guess it should become a case study of how Adidas and cricket have come together and just done something awesome for India, for the sport and for the brand.
Sure. I want to just flash back a bit about Adidas's journey, right? Because you've had 3 stints in India. One when you entered in 1989 with a license agreement with Bata. Then through a joint venture in 1996 with Magnum, and finally in 2016 when the government allowed 100% foreign operated stores. What's been the journey for Adidas in India through that prism, and what's changed dramatically for you from 2016?
I think one thing's consistent in this question, that we've always believed in India.
Yes.
In whatever way we were there. So we've been here for a very long time. And you're right that it's 2016, 2017 when the government allowed single brand retail in India, and therefore that opened the door for a lot of us brands to at least elevate the retail standards in India.
Absolutely.
But to answer your question in a simple way, I guess the journey in the early 2000s till to about 2016 was, I guess, mostly franchise-led from a distribution perspective.
Yeah.
We were always very keen to speak local sports. So you might remember in the middle 2000s, we still had investments in cricket. We had a long association with Sachin, with Viru, and therefore we were still, even in those days, talking about sport creds through a locally relevant sport. What happened in 2016 is, around that time, changed actually the contour for the industry for almost all players. Therefore, if the journey before 2016 was largely mono-branded store-led that were franchised, the journey, and wholesale of course, through key accounts and mom-and-pop doors, the journey after 2016 is actually far more, I would say, marketplace driven. It has multiple channels in it. It has now companies like ours, or brand like ours, can do own retail, company-owned retail. We can do company-owned e-commerce. Digital platforms like Flipkart, Myntra, Ajio, Amazon are big. And we of course do traditional wholesale, which is the mom-and-pop stores.
Now give me a sense of how the category has kind of evolved, with the opening up of the space, allowing international players to come and set foot here and actually focus on the market. How do you think the category has developed? And give me both the gaps and the challenges as well as the opportunities in this market.
So clearly what happened post 2016 is, because it became a multi-channel business potentially, it also opened with us the opportunity to bring new categories which were otherwise not available. Because with better spaces, you also get, let's say, the opportunity to tell the category story better. Golf wasn't available in the way it is available today. Running wasn't available the way it is available today. So what it did was that almost for many categories, it opened up the width and the choice for consumer, which erstwhile wasn't available. And hence, the development of, let's say, running or football or kids or women's, just because we had access to better space, better presentation, more high quality,
more formats,
high quality spaces, better formats. The net sales potential of many categories were better realized post 2016. The other way to look at this is also interesting, that how many stores do you need to penetrate in India? How big should your DTC business should be? Is India ready for categories that are large in the West but not yet developed in India? Golf is a good example. Small categories like kids, while they're smaller, they have small space in our stores, but can kids be a standalone category with standalone doors? And these are the questions that we grapple with almost every day.
I'm sure.
Originals is a good example, which used to be a small, let's say a small shop and shop or a small category in our stores earlier, can now command full, let's say, 4 wall spaces. We have original stores right here on the ground floor of this mall. So some categories have really benefited, but because we have multiple formats and multiple routes to reach the consumer, and some categories still need to be developed. And cricket is one of them, because unless we invest in cricket, I think it's difficult to develop the category credibly.
But let's talk about the growth of the category and some of the questions that you posed yourself, which, for instance, within Adidas, you are constantly, kind of questioning and grappling, saying what is the right time to, expand a particular, category. My question comes to you specifically because we're not a very, while we love watching cricket, we're not a sports-oriented country like the West, like Europe, where, the exercise regimen is so important in everybody's life. I think we're getting there, but have you seen that marked change, and hence, an inclination, or more of an inclination towards sportswear?
100%. So, and again, the way to explain this is before COVID and after COVID, and you know this, how COVID almost changed the way we looked at health, sport, indulgence into sport or physical activity, the quest for betterment, athleisure, let's say the quest for functionality and comfort, the quest for style as well as functionality, the quest for looking good while you perform the sport. Most of that has been changing over the years. So clearly post-COVID, a lot of tailwind because of that structural, let's say, tectonic shift in the way, let's say, our consumers, or almost everybody, looked at health and fitness and betterment. And that has changed for sure. The other thing that's interesting.
So you're saying COVID did give a big impetus to the category?
100%. And you know this also because a lot of fashion brands are also trying athleisure.
Absolutely.
Because as consumers, we all want comfortable, loungy, let's say, apparel or shoes. And the use case sometimes of, and the other way to explain this is that if on a continuum, if you look at Adidas's business, on one side is sport performance, the other side is sport inspired fashion, originals.
Sure.
The space in the middle is a huge space, and that's athleisure for that matter. And therefore, brands like us are able to operate across the continuum of performance, sportswear, and or athleisure and originals or fashion.
But if I had to just stop you there and ask you, like you've just explained these three, verticals to me, and if you look at a country like India, what is at the moment gaining the most momentum?
I think all the above.
Come on.
I'll tell you why. So I think the other way to explain this, and you might have heard this, Sonali, India, the 1.4 billion people, this, there's the top of the pyramid. The 80 million people. Those 80 million people are like anywhere in the world. They're well-traveled,
Sure.
they have a great lifestyle, etc. And they consume categories like the West would consume. So if you look at that consumer is buying running shoe for running and a football shoe for football.
Fair enough.
Exactly. So, and 80 million is, by the way, the population of Germany. So it's not a small amount of people, right?
Sure.
So I guess if you
in
look
fact, that 1.4 billion is a completely misleading
100%,
number.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not the addressable
Absolutely.
population or consumer base for brands like us.
Absolutely.
So if you look at that 80 million people, it mirrors the West, it mirrors everybody else, or how we show up in other places. In fact, our store productivity on top locations is also equal to our per square meter productivity anywhere in the West for those top cities and AAA stores and stores like these.
Yeah.
The next 150 million people, that's interesting because now they're consuming far more digitally. They're aspiring to, let's say, consume bigger brands and they have the, let's say, the lifestyle to consume those. Now that is where I believe the category segmentation is not as acute as it is at the top of the pyramid, and that's where sportswear helps, or the athleisure helps. So and hence, and that marketplace also becomes a little more price sensitive, I would say, and therefore it's important to be able to address that mid-market India with the right product and the right category. And that's where I think sometimes local for local or having a local strategy is far more important than
copy paste.
Cut copy paste. So at the top of the pyramid, you could argue we are similar to anywhere in the world.
Sure.
Mid market is quite nuanced and it's quite wide. It's at least 2 to 3 times the top of the pyramid, and that is where I guess the new consumer is.
I'm interested in this 150 million,
Big
right?
market, India.
Yeah, exactly. The market where everybody's salivating and hoping to tap. When you say, of course, it has to be nuanced because there are different needs, culture, all of that put together. What are you doing specifically? If I asked you, who is your key TG? Of course, the top 80 million goes without. So you're obviously present in all the top metros and tier 1 cities, but what's happening in tier 2, tier 3? Are you seeing some momentum there?
A couple of things are happening. First of all, that consumer, I believe, is ready and
has the money.
And has the money, of course, and has the access to digital shopping. So let's put it this way: before 2016 or before 2012, the only way to distribute a brand like Adidas would have been to open a mono-branded store in a tier 3 city. And that needs capex, that needs seasonal learnings, and you might get it right in the first go, you might not get it right. Today, with e-commerce, you can reach the consumer right to the farthest part of the country, and hence that consumer is ready and is willing to shop and has the access to e-commerce. This is a fun fact. This is very interesting. I believe India has about 21,000 zip codes. Don't quote me. But I guess something in that range.
Fair enough.
I think through e-commerce portals and through brand.coms like ours, we can reach 97% of those 21,000 zip codes, which means the address is right. There's an infrastructure to deliver the product, and there is a consumer there who's willing to buy the product.
Sure.
The question is, do you have the product? So I guess the key point for mid-market India would be distribution is hacked electronically or digitally. The question is, does the brand have the product to meet the choice of that consumer?
Obviously, the focus, for India, Adidas's focus is very visible, and now you'll be even more visible with your deal with BCCI. Let's talk about how you're getting business ready to address this 150 million, right? I mean, if you can break it down for me in terms of your retail stores like this, what's your ambition in terms of how much will we see in terms of visibility, your D2C play, and other innovations where distribution, availability, and visibility will become a force for Adidas. So then there is automatic conversion.
Sure. Let's look at it from a four-walled controlled distribution to a digital distribution perspective. I believe the mid-market India is ready for both. Electronically or digitally, we can only distribute a product to any corner of India, let's put it this way.
Yeah.
Incrementally, we have realized over the last couple of years that there are pockets of demand or some cities who are erstwhile, let's call it tier 3 city, are ready for setting up stores. So because we have a fairly large e-commerce business through our partners and ourselves, we kind of know where we are shipping our product to. And therefore, for example, we know that Nasik is ready today to open our second retail store or a third retail store, because we already know how much of products we get delivered there.
So basically your e-com is your MR equal.
100%. And hence, for mid-market India, the way we're getting ready is to first ensure that we have the right product for that consumer. We are clearly digital first. It's easier to reach that consumer digitally first. We put a lot of effort behind making sure that our products are segmented well, that we put a right product in the right channel, that we work in strategic partnership with the right e-commerce partner to take a product there. And when we believe the city is ready from a demand concentration perspective, then we bring in our store. And just to answer your question on stores, we typically, I'm giving you a range. We have in excess of 450 odd stores in India. About 80 odd stores by the end of this year will be run by the company.
Okay.
The balance will be run a franchise by our franchise partners.
And 80 odd stores which you own is concentrated where?
In top cities,
top
largely.
Cities, yeah.
We believe the company-run stores have a role to play, first role clearly is to elevate consumer experience. We're sitting in a beautiful environment, and this is possible because we believe in this location, and we were able to elevate the experience both through a larger space, better category presentation, and the role that retail has to play, a company-run retail has to play, that it sets the flight path for everybody to understand what good looks like, and therefore raises everybody else's standard. We've used this method across the globe where we believe when we enter first, we're able to at least show what good looks like, and then the entire fleet is able to rise to that, let's say, standard, which is great for the consumer. We're also looking at cities where we're not there yet, and here I'm talking about comparative benchmarking. So there are enough, let's say, comparative benchmarks in this in India where you could put your stores and the others and figure out if you are available in that city or not. And therefore, India also becomes exciting because a lot of new cities are available are ready for the first Adidas store. And that's the other, let's say, execution that we're doing with expansion of franchise business.
Sure. You've talked a lot about the fact that e-com is playing a big business. You're also using it to map demand and kind of figuring out whether you should be physically present there. If I had to ask you, as of today, what is your split between offline and online?
So it's increased post-COVID, let's put it this way. And we, at this point of time, would be about 45%-ish online and 55 offline.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay, Neel, now just coming to some numbers. I know you're not going to indulge me, but I'm going to still ask and try my luck.
Go ahead.
So if I just look at 2016, when you came in, 100% operated, you've been in a good innings, right? And we saw a very big dip in FY20, but this was across brands, right? Thanks to COVID. So that was a very dim year, and then we've seen a big bounce back. However, I'd like to just, while you're one of the leading players, if I juxtapose, let's say, Adidas with Puma, Puma seems to be way ahead. In fact, the former head of Puma on record told me that, Puma has beaten Nike, Reebok, and Adidas all put together. So given the stature of Adidas globally, right, and the kind of respect and adulation and admiration the brand kind of exudes, why is that you're not the market leader here? We
actually started expanding only in 2018. I remember when I joined Adidas India in 2019, we only had 8 stores.
Oh.
Our global e-commerce platform came to India in 2021. We got our global app in 21. We got our global membership program in 21. So our real investment journey into DTC and further expansion and raising the bar and and focusing back on India, I would say started post-COVID, when we brought a bunch of investments to open our stores and our e-commerce business. So I guess it's just a phase in time. I would also like to say that it is a long race, clearly. So I guess if you ask the same question in 2025, you might have a different answer.
The numbers may be different.
The numbers could be different. The players could be different. Lately, the focus that we have in India is helping us grow faster versus the older times because of focus in mid-market India, in product innovation. A significant part of what we sell in India is made in India. And therefore we are able to...
That makes a big difference?
That makes at least for meeting price points, for getting better margins in India, for creating more jobs in India, etc. And the other way to look at it, of course, is how sustainable is this growth sometimes. Because sometimes growth comes at the cost of unhealthy bottom line. We in Adidas always believe in long, sustainable growth. And that's the game we've played ever since, I guess, ever since we've been in India and even globally.
So, Neela, I know you've only joined in 2019, so it's unfair for me to pose the question to you, but I must because I'm posing it to Adidas's legacy in India. Why is it that the investment phase in India started so late?
Okay, so I guess, well, there's no, I mean, later is again a relative term.
As in more recent than, let's say...
Let's put it this way, we could have started in 2019 if COVID wouldn't have happened, or 2018 if COVID, because we already had 8 or 9 stores, we could have actually moved much faster. But I guess just phase in time. So I don't think it's where you start. I guess it eventually boils down to where you're heading to.
Sure.
I think, as I mentioned in the beginning of our conversation, that the brands who are able to romanticize the category, grow the category, make it inspiring for our Indian consumers, and the brands who play the long game will eventually win. India is a go slow to go fast kind of a market, and Adidas has played long, and I believe if in relative terms, I guess we were getting our bearings, understanding the market, getting more, let's say, winning, more consumers, understanding the market better, making stronger partnerships in the pre-COVID phase. Post-COVID, we've leveraged all of that and the investments that global head office is making in the country to now accelerate the business.
Sure. So, what is it, you've joined in 2019.
Yes.
Now you're seeing, post-COVID, you're seeing this impetus in the category. You're also, obviously we're seeing the brand very visible and very excited in India.
Yes.
What is your vision for the next 5 years in terms of what Adidas is going to be achieving in this marketplace?
Okay. We would want to be the most credible brand, the most credible sport brand in the country. We also want to develop the sporting culture, as well as the larger business of sport-inspired fashion in India. So if I simplify, apart from being the fastest growing brand in the country or in the Adidas world, our vision would be to continuously develop the mandate around sport, and in that be the most credible sport brand for our consumers.
I have to ask you this very interesting question. You've got your global CEO who's come in from a rival brand, former Puma CEO, now Adidas's global CEO, so he knows all the trade secrets. Yeah. How is that working out from an insider perspective?
I think lovely, so loving it. But I don't know if you noticed, he's come back to Adidas.
Sure.
So he's come back home. So we're very excited.
I did read his recent address. When your annual reports were out. And when he's talked about, the global scenario, he has talked about the fact that, there are going to be some global headwinds because of the macroeconomic factors, because of generally Europe and, some parts of the West going into a slowdown of sorts. So a lot of macroeconomic factors not really helping across categories, I would say. What are you envisaging in terms of, roadblocks for the Indian market? So, which would not just be applicable to you, but of course to the category and to, I say, across companies.
Fundamentally, India is an attractive place, Sonali. So, and I think.
But tell me, Neil, when has India not been attractive? Even when I was 20, India was attractive.
You're right, and same likewise. However, I guess the question is when is the right time to invest in India? And is India ready for your product category? And I guess that's what we're seeing now. So I think if India was ready for FMCG products 20 years ago, and it was ready for auto like 10 years ago. I guess incrementally it is ready for lifestyle categories like sports and
Sure.
leisure, etc. So fundamentally, India is in a good place. It's stable, it's growing, it's export oriented. Our consumers are consuming sport for lifestyle, for sports. There's increasingly more.
No, my question is more about 2023.
Huh.
Like, are you 2023, 2024? I mean, because of all the global macroeconomic factors, inflation, and all the other surrounding factors, are we expecting 2023 to not be such a great year?
No, Sonali. Nothing fundamentally. No. I think sometimes inflation plays spoil sport in categories like ours, but that's part of the game, and it's a seasonal business.
Well, last question before I let you go is that there, of course, there's so much talk about you and Bata and the strategic relationship that's in the works. Could you throw some light on it?
Can't comment. Speculative. We've said that before, but speculative at this point of time.
So you can neither confirm nor deny.
Yeah.
I see. Anything you'd like to add before I let you go?
I'm generally excited about India. I guess that's an opportunity. Consumers are ready. Adidas, through the partnership with cricket and through the awesome products that our elite athletes are wearing, I believe we have shown what big brands can bring to heartbeat sports. So in the end, I would say outstandingly exciting times, living the dream, and this is a long game.
Well, on that note, wishing you and Adidas all the very best for your India innings, and here's more power to sport and sportswear as a category.
Thank you so much, Sonali. Lovely conversation. Love talking to you. High five. Yeah,
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thanks.